Hello and welcome to the Dorado Rare Collection. Today in this video we're going to take you through the bottles, the stills, the marks, and then a little bit about what next. So hopefully you'll enjoy what I've got to say. So we have 10 bottles in the Rare Collection. What are they? So they're from the cellars of Demerara Distillery Limited in Guyana. They are all of cask strength, which is unusual for DDL. They are limited edition. We don't know how many. Some say 2,500 a bottle, some say 4,000 a bottle. The only two that we really know is this one at 790 and this one at 300. We've been told there's no sugars or sweeteners that have been added, although the hydrometer test has shown the Versailles does have a little bit. Otherwise, the rest of them are good. So what are they? So let's go through the three releases. In release one, we had a Enmore 1993, we had a Versailles 2002, and we had a Port Morant 1999. Release two the following year in 2017 saw two bottles released, an Enmore 96 and a Port Morant 97. There was also one bottle that was done in conjunction with Luca from Vellier, which was a blended in the barrel, it's this one, Port Morant and Diamond. Then finally, you have release three in 2018 with the two obvious ones being Skeldon and Albion. The two lesser known ones were done on the Diamond still, 20 years old. One released for CBH in France, the other one released for, let's have a look, company in Netherlands. These were very limited, 300 and 790 for these ones. The rest of them, as I say, we don't know, but that is the overview. 10 bottles in total, and now we're going to go and have a look at the stills that they were distilled on. The first stills we're going to look at are the wooden stills as part of the Heritage Collection at DDL, and these are all made from the greenheart tree, which are native to Guyana and surrounding areas. The first in this collection is the Port Morant still, which is a double wooden pot still with retort. As you can see in the picture, you've got the two pots on the left-hand side and the retort on the right. This is the oldest still at DDL, and it produces heavy-bodied rum. As mentioned, it's made from the greenheart wood, and this does wear out. What they do is they replace them in planks, and not all at the same time, as this would really change the flavour if they did it all at once. Being a pot still, it's run at batches, and this is probably the most famous rum still in the world. It started life in Port Morant in 1732, apparently, but I don't think it was built then. The estate was there in 1732, and it was cotton picking, I believe, at the time. So at some point after that, it was built. It moved to Albion in 1955 as part of the consolidation of distilleries and sugarcane plantations, and then moved to Iflut in 1968, before then finally settling down in Diamond in 1999. It was then recommissioned for use in 2000 and is still in use in this day. The second still we want to look at is the Enmore EHP Edward Henry Porter. This is a double wooden coffee still, and it has two columns made of wood from what you can see. The first column is an analyzer, and this column still has steam rising and wash descending through several levels. The second column is called a rectifier and carries the alcohol from the wash. Being a continuous still, it is more efficient than having a pot still, and it is capable of continuous distillation. It also produces higher ABV spirits than the pot stills. This is the only wooden coffee still in the world, and can arguably say that it produces some of the best rums in the world. Again, this is for you to experiment, try out, and you tell us. With this still, it started in Enmore in 1880, where it was built, moved to Iflut in 1994 for only a few years, and then once again as part of the consolidation moved to Diamond in 1999 and recommissioned for use in 2000. The third and final wooden still is called the Versailles still, or French Versailles still, and it's a single wooden pot still with retort. Now, if you ask me, it looks like something you wouldn't drink anything from, but that's only because you've now seen the picture. If you ignore the picture and you try the rum, you might have a different opinion on it. But this produces medium to heavy bodied rum, made of the greenheart wood again. It's done in batch processes, and started life in Versailles in 1890. So again, a very old still, over 100 years old. Ended up in Enmore in 1978 to 1994. I flew to 1999 and then settled again in Diamond in 2000. Now we've gone over the wooden heritage stills at DDL, it'd be good to see how they relate to the Rare Collection. And most of Release 1 and Release 2 are part of the wooden heritage stills. We start with a couple of Port Morants, 1999 and 1997. Both of those were done on the wooden heritage still, Port Morant. The one that most people have been raving about from reviewers and bloggers are the Enmores. They seem to be the gems of Release 1 and Release 2, and a suggestion to go, that's your starting point if you're interested to try one. The Versailles didn't get the best of reviews, some slammed it, but fundamentally it's nice to have one there. Again, using the wooden stills, that completes the complement. This one as well, as I say, part column, part pot still, so it's a blend in the barrel, and that was done on Port Morant. Again, that definitely got some good reviews and comparable to the age of VID006 Demeraras. So that's what we got from the wooden stills. Now let's move on to the metal stills. We're going to have a look at the heritage metal stills, which there are two of. The Diamond Coffee is the first, and there are two of these. They're continuous metal coffee stills, and they produce the mark SVW only. These were installed in 1950 in the Diamond Distillery and have stayed there to this date. The second one we're going to look at is the French Saval, which I'm pretty certain I can't pronounce, but hey ho, we can see where we go from there. And these are continuous metal. They are 2 times dual column. The first dual column was built in 1921 and the second one in 1980. This is a special still. This is the still that can be reconfigured to replicate many of the lost stills and closed distilleries. So to give an example, they can change the plates around into configuration to replicate the Blair continuous still from Iflut and Skeldon. It can look at being configured into a coffee still from Albion or Le Bon Intention, or a continuous still from Blairmont. So when you see a lot of the names coming out, such as those, normally what it is that they've been recreated on this still, and in total it makes 9 marks. Those are the two. Now we've had an overview of the metal heritage stills. We can see how they relate to the Dorado Rare Collection. In Release 2, we did see this, the Port Morant and Diamond blend. So that's obviously a mix of pot and column still. So that was used in there. In Release 3, the first of the two, which are very unknown, are the 2 diamonds, which are 20 years old. And there have been very little press advertisements or reviews on this. The only one that I've really found is from Rom Hatton, who did a video on the sofa, and they both highly praised both of the bottles. Finally, we have from Release 3, the Skeldon and the Albion. And this is a bit confusing now because they don't have the names of the stills on them. So what we can learn in the next section of my video around the marks is that these were done on the Saval still, and they were configured in a way that represents a rum that was created when the distilleries of Skeldon and Albion were both open pre-1960s. So hopefully that has given you an overview of the bottles and the stills that they were produced from. We're now going to move. Very quickly, we're going to go over the rest of the stills that you'll find in DDL. Diamond Coffee number 3, which is used for special projects and is similar, a continuous metal coffee still built in 1950. The MPRS, a multi-pressure rectification still with 5 columns, creating light neutral spirits, created in 2011. The Tri-Canada continuous metal still, creating neutral alcohol for spirits drinks. That was built in 1980. And the last one is the Diamond High Ether, which is a Jean d'Or metal pot double retort still and creates heavy bodied funk. So funky rum, similar to what you see in Jamaica. This isn't used a huge amount and not many people know about this one, but that's the last one in the lineup. Again, built in 1950, housed in Diamond Distillery to this date. So to give you an overview of all the stills at Demerara, Distillers Limited, they have 11 stills. They actually have a 12th, which is a gin still, but the 11 we're interested in are 3 woodens, 8 metals, and the heritage stills are the 3 wooden ones, Port Morant, Enmore, Versailles, and the 2 metal coffee stills, which are Saval and Diamond. Now we've had an overview of the stills, let's go on board and start to have a look at the marks. So we're now going to have a look at the marques. Now, what is a marque in relation to El Dorado or DDL? So I've had a look into this, and the only thing I can tell you is that the marque tells a story, and it's not easy to understand, and I'm still confused to this day. So have a look at the websites, make up your own interpretation, and I'm just going to give you an overview of what I understood by what it is. So it could be an estate or distillery it originated from, and in this case, the Albion is from a distillery of gone past, and the same as Skeldon. And what you'd expect from using those marques, and here you have SWR for Skeldon and AN for Albion. And what you'd expect is that they either use the sugar from that distillery, that may still be all from that region, but fundamentally we're looking at a recipe that was used back in the day when that distillery was open, and then a configuration of the Saval still that represents that. So that could be a Blair still, it could be a continuous still, it's a coffee still. That's how versatile the Saval still is. Then we start to go on to either some of the other ones. So PM, VSG and EHP. So EHP is around the person who owned the estate at the time, Edward Henry Porter. For PM, Port Morant, it tells you about the distillery or the name of the distillery. For VSG, that represents Versailles, and two other local areas that represented the sugarcane. So it is very confusing. On the diamond, it's a bit more simple. It only has one marque. So here it's got, what, this one, SVW. When you get a blend in the barrel, you get both of them. So because this is Port Morant, you've got a PM, and because this is diamond, you've got an SVW. But again, you know, this is not an easy thing to understand, and it gets more complicated than that. So when you have a look at Port Morant from 1997, that was actually distilled in the Iflut distillery. So should it have a U in front of it? Because some of them do, who knows? When we get to some of the other ones, as you say, these represent a distillery and recipe from the past. I'd go on the basis of the more you explore, the more you learn about the history of Guyana, the distilleries, the sugarcane, the owners of the distillery. But explore. If you've got any questions, please post them and I'll try and answer them. But fundamentally, the marque is there to tell you about an estate or distillery it originates from, a recipe or process used to create the expression, the still, or the blend. Either way, confuse yourself, ask some questions, pour a dram, enjoy. Single Cask Rum has put together this really good table which looks at all the different marques, their original sugar estate, a distillery, the types of still they were using then, and the types of still that are used now in DDL. All I can suggest is that I've got a load of links at the end of this video. Take a look at them. If you want to learn more about Demerara and Guyanese rum, there's a whole world of information to try and get your head around. So now we've gone through the bottles, the stills, the marques. There's a little bit about what next. And to be honest, we don't know. They released in 2016, 17 and 18. We've seen nothing in 2019, nothing in 2020. And there are still lots of bottles on the shelves, which do suggest that they are quite expensive. I think one of the problems that people have had is this transparency from the distillery, where they said no dosage. A hydrometer test showed that the Versailles did have some in. You know, we don't know the limited number of bottles because they don't tell us. There's no real promotion around these bottles other than the retailers themselves. It just would be nice for a bit more detail about these bottles because they have such great stories. What we do know is that it's very unlikely that Velier are likely to release any more, although some collaboration ones like this are absolutely great to see. Independent bottlers keep on finding barrels and bring them to the table, which is great, so we get loads of expressions. So we can expect a lot more from DDL, I just can't tell you what. Now, there were one final question, which is which one is my favourite? Now, in fact, it isn't one from here. So I do have a favourite DDL, and it ties to a story. Drinking rum and telling stories is exactly what I'm about. So I will produce a video telling you which one of my El Dorado bottles is my favourite and why. So hopefully you've got a good overview of the bottles. It's given you a bit more education. I would like to say, once again, big thank you to all of the people, bloggers, reviewers who have been putting content out there, the Facebook groups for answering loads of my questions. The community around this has been great, and I couldn't have pulled it together without you. Hopefully you enjoyed, and if you've got any questions or you found any mistakes that I've made, just let me know and we can learn together. Okay, cheers, bye.